On Sunday, the Big Ten Council of Presidents and Chancellors, the COPC, met and kind of approved the kind of the go forward recommendation for COVID-19, looking at the next academic year. And essentially what this will look like is for post-vaccinated, asymptomatic student athletes and staff, it really is going to require that those participants do not need to be in a surveillance testing platform like we have been this year. So I think that's very consistent with what the CDC has recommended, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, symptomatic individuals, regardless of vaccination status, become a different category. Unvaccinated or symptomatic individuals obviously need to be tested. And so what we have been charged with is coming up with a lot of this is going to be, all of this actually, what testing platform is going to be used is going to be up to local guidance. So institutional guidance in conjunction with federal, state, and local rules. And so we are working on what the recommendations for what UW will use in the fall. And we have a little bit of an expanded small group of people that will be looking at this with people with expertise in infectious diseases, myself, Michael Moll, David Bernhardt. And then the other piece of this is also the cardiac protocols, which were very protocolized across the conference this last year. And really mandated an evaluation that was standard, including imaging and quarantine. This also will transition to local decision making. And so we will be working with one of our UW Health cardiologists who's been working at the conference level as well on these protocols to come up with recommendations to honor this local decision making. So I'm really excited about this. I think this is exactly where we need to be. I'm really grateful that the Big Ten was so careful and so cautious this last year. I think it served us well, but I think it also right now serves us well to pivot and really follow local guidance. I will also point out that the NCAA has come up with new guidance this last week, which is very similar to what the conference has established. I think the only difference is that the NCAA also includes kind of a provision for unvaccinated individuals. If the team has a 85% vaccination rate, those people kind of fall into a different category. They kind of become like a vaccinated cohort. I will just say the Big Ten guidance does not include that threshold. It's really based on the individual student athlete and if they're vaccinated or not, kind of what pathway they follow. So it's likely that our unvaccinated athletes will continue to be tested, and we will be working on what that protocol will look like. So I don't know if there's any questions about that, any other comments from people on the call today.
Thank you, Ann. Does anyone have a question for Ann or for me?
I actually have a question. So, Ann, did you say that the last part of what you said with the unvaccinated student athletes, is that standard across all Big Ten teams that they would interact with?
So there will be information sharing about what schools are doing, but it will not be a standard, it will not be standardized. It'll be up to local guidance. And one of the things I think we have realized now is that there are different state rules, and there's different campuses have made different, for the general student body have established different testing protocols. So it almost became probably, I would say, it would become much more difficult to mandate across campuses at this point because of the local guidance. But we have been, that question has been asked, and I think it's a great one. But there will be transparency in how all of the teams are being tested, but it just won't be a conference decision.
So would there be any concern, do you think, by one team playing against another team because the standards are different?
My hope is, if I put on my optimist hat, is that the vast majority of student athletes will be vaccinated, and then symptomatic athletes will be obviously removed and will be following the protocol of quarantine. So that risk will be minimal. However, that that's a good point, and I think that's something that I think we're going to probably continue to have conversations about that very question about how to kind of deal with all of these local protocols intersecting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Pete and Ann?
Rob?
Has the athletic department or the university advised student athletes on vaccination in terms of suggesting that they get them? I understand that you can't mandate them and you can make them available, but have they been given a pro-vaccine recommendation?
And I can speak to that, and Michael Mole can absolutely add to that. Yes, there's been a strong advocacy for vaccination that has been front and center of the public health message the athletes in particular have gotten.
Excellent, thank you.
And I have a quick question. Is there a distinction between being vaccinated and having had COVID-19? So if you were sick with it and developed antibodies, or?
It will be based on vaccination status, as it's still recommended that everybody is vaccinated, even if you got COVID-19. So it's based on the vaccination status.